How's it going, everybody? It's John from the Washington Media Institute, back with another quick video. Last week, we went into Photoshop and I showed you guys some of the basics of the clone stamp tool. And when I say the basics, I basically showed you most of what I know about the clone stamp tool. But I was thinking a lot about the limitations of the clone stamp tool and the times when it doesn't work. And then I got to thinking, Photoshop's been around for a long time and Adobe's really good at what they do. And I'm sure that there's more to this tool than what I know. So I did a little bit of digging and I found some really cool stuff. So I just want to show you guys a couple of quick things that I think are really, really cool and may help you get around some of the limitations of just sort of working with the clone stamp tool as it comes off the shelf, if you will. All right, so here's a picture that we took a look at last week. It's my daughter on the beach playing. I'm going to zoom in here to this bird, and I'm going to imagine. So let's imagine that I like this bird, but I actually wish that it wasn't alone. I wish that it had a couple of buddies with him, right? So I'm going to grab the clone stamp tool. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to hold Alt or Option. I'm going to select my source, and now I can do this. And now I can keep selecting this, and I can. There we go. Check it out. So now he's got a few friends, and they're flying in a formation apparently, right? All right. So there we go. I clone stamped the bird a couple of times, but it looks like a clone stamped bird, right? I mean, it's literally the exact same bird in the exact same position, the exact same size. It doesn't work. You couldn't create a flock of birds this way. But let's check this out. If we come up here with the clone stamp tool selected and we start looking up here at the top where we can see all of the options for our tools, or most of the options for our tools, here we can see that we have the clone stamp tool. This is where we set our brush hardness and size and all that. But we can do blending mode and opacity, and that's all pretty cool. But let's check this out. I'm going to hover over here, and you see this, it says toggle the clone stamp source panel. So I'm going to click on this, and it opens up this panel over here. And now I've got these new options. Specifically, I want to look at width and height, and then the rotation. So right now everything's set to 100%. So if I select my source, I come over here, it's going to make another copy of the bird at exactly 100% of the size of the original, right? But check this out. Let's set it to, I don't know, let's go 300% so that we can really see the difference. I'll select my bird again. Holy crap. There we go. We got a giant scaled up version of the bird. Now that's too big. We don't like that. That's way too big. Let's do it to 50%. Select my bird. Now we got a bird that's like flying way farther off. Maybe I'll put like that bird like way up over here somewhere, right? So we can scale this up and down. Here's another cool thing that we can do. We can actually change the rotation. So let's make the rotation, just for the sake of illustration, let's make it 90 degrees, right? Now I'm going to select my source again. I'm going to make it 150% scale. And now look, I've rotated the stamp. Now I don't know why. Maybe this bird's in a dive bomb, I guess. And so that's not the effect that I'm going for. But the fact that I can rotate and change the rotation is really, really cool, right? So all we have to do is come over here up to our toolbar and select this toggle clone source panel. And this is going to give us a whole bunch of different options. Now, play around with the offset, play around with some other things here, but the show overlay, that's always really nice, the opacity. But here's something else. I don't like a lot of clicking if I can help it. I prefer to use keyboard shortcuts. I'm actually going to hit reset here. I like to use keyboard shortcuts. So let's check this out. Let me select a source again. So I'm going to hold Alt and Option. I'm going to click on this bird here. And now there's some keyboard shortcuts that we can use. So What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Shift and Alt Option key here, right? So if I hold Alt Option, it's telling me like, hey, select a new source target. That's not what I want to do. I'm going to hold Shift as well, and now it's going to show me this thing. And now if I use my square bracket keys, so those are the two keys just to the right of the P key on your keyboard, right? So if I use my right square bracket, and I'm just going to hold it down. If you look over here on my clone source panel at my width and height, it's not 100% anymore. It's now 113.5%. And I can actually like keep, if I hold this down, I can make it larger. So I can go up pretty rapidly. I say pretty rapidly. It isn't that rapid, let's be honest. And I can change my size. I can hold the left bracket key, the one just to the right of the P key, and I can scale it down. And you can actually see here on my image that it's being reflected, that change is being reflected, right? So this bird that I'm about to clone stamp is now like shrinking off into the distance, right? So that's Shift and the Alt or Option key and your square brackets. Now if I do Shift, Alt, Option, and then my angle brackets. Your angle brackets are your greater than and less than symbols from they're on the bottom row of the keyboard, just to the right of the M key, right? So it's like the comma and the period, and then if you hold Shift, you have your left and right angle brackets. These will affect the rotation. So Shift, Alt, Option, and then I'm going to do my my left angle bracket, and you'll see that I'm rotating in a counterclockwise direction. I'm just holding it down, and now my bird is rotating, right? So if I was going to make a flock of birds, and I was totally cool with the fact that all of them had their wings in exactly the same position here, right? One of the ways that I can give this a little bit of variation is Shift, Alt, Option, and bracket key, maybe a little bit, to change the size. So I'll shrink it down, and then I'll use my angle brackets to give it a little bit of a different pitch. What happened? Where's my source? There we go. All right. Select my source again. Let's maybe make another one. I'll make my brush size a little bit smaller here. Scale this one up just a bit. Maybe let's make this one like, let's pretend that this is the largest one. It's the closest one to us. Let's go up to, I don't know, 150 or so. Put them over here. I want them to rotate down just a little bit. So I'm holding Alt, Option, Shift, and my left angle bracket. Sorry, my right angle bracket. Right. Put them over there. Now this could be really handy if you were doing something like trying to fix a kink in a necklace on a portrait. It could be really handy for trying to fill in like a part of a pattern on something that's like vanishing in a vanishing point a little bit, like trailing off into the distance. Since I learned this, I've thought of a bunch of different times that I could have really used this, and I probably should have dug a little bit deeper into the clone stamp tool a long time ago. So listen, Photoshop, it's huge. They've been doing this a long time. Adobe knows what they're doing. They've probably worked out a solution to the problem that you're having. Sometimes you just have to dig a little bit deeper into the tools that they give you. And one of the things that I recommend is obviously Google. Check Adobe's support pages. And then sometimes just come in here and start clicking around and be like, what are these things, right? Like, what do all of these things do? Click it, find out. If you get confused, just go up. And not if you get confused. If you mess up your workspace to the point where you're like, oh no, this isn't good, just go up to Window, Workspace, come down and reset your workspace. Everything disappears, goes back to normal, goes back to the way that you like it. But play around, click on some stuff, see what it does. You never know what you're going to find out. Thanks. Have a great one, guys. Talk to you next week.